Hello, my name is Ryan Schaub, and I work with the Frontier Extension District as their horticultural agent. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about container gardening. This spring, I've received a lot of phone calls about container gardens as it's been too wet to get into our traditional gardens. To go and find a container can be a little overwhelming. What material do you get it made out of? Wood, clay, plastic, ceramic, fiberglass? It truly doesn't matter. What matters is going to be the size of our container. K-State would recommend that we find a container 16 to 24 inches for vegetable crops. But it isn't just the diameter that matters. It's also the depth of that container. The depth is going to be the water holding capacity that you have for your plants. People in the past that have struggled with container gardening are going to be those that have just went out to their garden and grabbed soil and thrown it into a container and expected it to work. The problem with that is the fact that that soil will compact over repetitive waterings and to cut off the amount of oxygen that that plant has access to. So what do? I'd recommend going and buying some potting soil. The reason I like potting soil is it holds its structure much better, allowing that plant to have more oxygen. When we buy that potting mix, most of them already have fertilizers included in them, so make sure to read the directions. If it's already got fertilizer, we don't need to add any fertilizer at planting time, but we will have to add fertilizer as we get into the growing season. In essence of time, I went ahead and planted my container. On this side, I planted my onions. Now, I planted my onions about 2 to 3 inches apart, as that's the bulb is supposed to get about 2 to 3 inches in diameter. If you want to plant green onions, you can plant them a little bit closer together, but know that your bulbs aren't going to ever get as big. I planted carrots on my left side. The carrots, again, are going to need about 2 to 3 inches apart, and you only want to plant them about a ½ inch deep. The lettuce, I planted in the middle. It's going to need the most room out of all my vegetables that I've planted here today. The lettuce, I gave about 5 inches, but we really need to be someplace in between that 4 to 6 inch range. The radishes on my right, I planted, and I just took those seeds and I just kind of scattered them out there and then just roughed them back up and made sure that they had good seed to soil contact. When they germinate, I will then thin them down to about 1 radish per every inch. The last crop I planted was spinach. Spinach is very popular right now, especially in container gardening, as they just don't need the room that lettuce does. The spinach I planted about 2 inches apart, and I plan to harvest individual leaves. If you want to harvest individual plants at the end of the growing season, you need to probably give them a little bit more room and give them about 4 to 5 inches. Now that I've got them planted, we need to talk a little bit about watering. When we water our vegetables, we need to make sure that we water them so thoroughly that there's water coming out the drainage hole on the bottom. Do your plants need watered or not? That's a simple question. Just stick your finger about a ½ inch into your soil. Is there moisture? Then you probably don't need to water. If there's not and it's dry, we need to go ahead and water our vegetables. If you have any questions regarding container gardening, there's a couple of good K-State publications that might be able to help answer your questions. That is Growing Vegetables in Pots and Container Gardening, which you can find a link to below this video. With that, thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions on container gardening, please don't hesitate to give me a call.